Marcus Blackwood's hands were trembling as he traced the curve of her shoulder, and that terrified him more than any hostile takeover ever had. "We shouldn't be doing this," Amara whispered, but she didn't pull away. Couldn't pull away. Not when his touch felt like fire against her skin, not when every nerve ending in her body was singing his name. They were on his bed, expensive silk sheets cool beneath her back, Manhattan skyline glittering through floor-to-ceiling windows behind them. The charity gala was still raging 20 floors below, music and laughter floating up like a distant dream. But up here, in this penthouse that felt like its own universe, there was only him. Only her. Only this moment that was about to change everything. "I know we shouldn't," Marcus murmured, his voice rough with barely controlled desire as he leaned closer, his lips hovering just inches from hers. "I've known you for exactly 3 hours. This breaks every rule I've ever had about relationships, about business, about keeping my personal life separate from everything else." His thumb brushed across her lower lip, and Amara's breath caught. "But I looked at you across that wedding reception," he continued, his blue eyes locked on hers with an intensity that made her dizzy. "And I knew. I knew that if I didn't kiss you tonight, if I didn't take this chance, I'd regret it for the rest of my life." Amara's heart was pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. "Marcus." "Tell me to stop," he said softly, desperately. "Tell me this is crazy, and I'll walk away. I'll take you home. We'll forget this ever happened." She should say it. Should be reasonable, logical, the brilliant neurologist who made decisions based on science and data, not on the way a stranger's touch made her entire body come alive. Instead, she reached up and tangled her fingers in his dark hair, pulling him down until their lips were almost touching. "Don't you dare stop," she whispered. And then he was kissing her, and the world disappeared. Dr. Amara Johnson had not wanted to come to this wedding. At 34, with a groundbreaking neuroscience research project demanding every spare moment and a patient load that kept her at the hospital until midnight most nights, the last thing she needed was to waste a Saturday at her best friend's brother's wedding reception. But Zoe had begged, literally begged, with tears and promises and the kind of emotional manipulation only a best friend could pull off. "Please, Amara. One of the bridesmaids dropped out last minute and I need you there, just for a few hours. You can leave early, I promise." So here she was, standing in the grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel, wearing a burgundy off-shoulder dress that Zoe had picked out, her natural afro-textured hair styled in an elegant updo that had taken the salon 3 hours to perfect, feeling completely out of place among New York's elite. Old money surrounded her, women dripping in diamonds, men in custom tuxedos, everyone speaking in that particular accent that came from generations of private schools and country clubs. Amara took a glass of champagne from a passing waiter and tried to look like she belonged. "You look miserable," Zoe said, appearing at her elbow with a knowing smile. "I'm not miserable," Amara lied. "Just observing." "You're hiding in the corner cataloguing escape routes." Zoe linked her arm through Amara's. "Come on, dance with me. Meet some people. Try to have fun for once in your workaholic life." "I have fun. Reading medical journals doesn't count." Before Amara could respond, before she could come up with a witty defense of her perfectly fulfilling life, she felt it. The stare. Intense. Burning. Impossible to ignore. She turned, scanning the crowd, and that's when she saw him. A man standing near the bar, champagne glass frozen halfway to his lips, staring at her like she'd just walked out of his dreams and materialized in the middle of this wedding reception. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with dark hair styled perfectly, a clean-shaven face that belonged on magazine covers, and a tailored black tuxedo that probably cost more than her car. But it was his eyes that caught her. Blue. Intense. Looking at her like she was the only person in the room. Oh my God, Zoe breathed. That's Marcus Blackwood. The name meant nothing to Amara. Jason's best friend from college, Zoe continued, her voice rising with excitement. Worth billions, runs some massive investment firm. Forbes called him the Ice King of Wall Street because he's never been in a serious relationship and apparently has no emotions. Amara looked back at the man, at Marcus, and their eyes locked. He didn't look emotionless. He looked hungry. He's staring at you, Zoe whispered urgently. Amara, he hasn't blinked in like 30 seconds. Do you know him? Never seen him before in my life. Well, he's seen you. And oh my God, he's coming over here. Amara's heart kicked into overdrive as Marcus set down his champagne and moved through the crowd with purpose. People parted for him automatically like they could sense the power radiating off him in waves. When he reached them, when he stood close enough that Amara could smell his cologne, expensive, intoxicating, making her head spin, he didn't waste time with small talk. He just extended his hand and said with devastating honesty, "I don't usually do this." His voice was deep, cultured, with just a hint of roughness underneath that made her stomach flutter. "Do what?" Amara heard herself ask, proud that her voice didn't shake. "Introduce myself to the most beautiful woman in the room without having my assistant research her first." He smiled, and it transformed his entire face from intimidating to devastating. "I'm Marcus." Amara placed her hand in his, and electricity shot up her arm at the contact. Amara. And that's either refreshingly honest or slightly disturbing. Probably both. His hand was warm, strong, holding hers a moment longer than strictly necessary. "Would you like to find out which?" Zoe made a small squeaking sound and suddenly remembered she needed to be somewhere else, disappearing into the crowd with a backwards glance that clearly said, "Don't mess this up." "Your friend just abandoned you," Marcus observed, still holding her hand. "She has a habit of doing that when she thinks I need alone time with someone." "And do you? Need alone time with me?" The question was forward, presumptuous, exactly the kind of thing Amara would normally shut down immediately. Instead, she found herself smiling. "Why don't you tell me about yourself, and I'll let you know." "Fair enough." He finally released her hand, though his fingers trailed across her palm in a way that felt deliberately intimate. "What do you want to know?" "What do you do? Besides having assistants research women for you?" "I run an investment firm, Blackwood Industries. We focus on ethical investments, clean energy, medical technology, companies actually trying to make a difference rather than just maximize profits. That's surprisingly idealistic for Wall Street. I prefer to think of it as enlightened self-interest. The world changes whether we like it or not. Might as well invest in the change." He tilted his head, studying her. "Your turn. What do you do?" "I'm a neurologist. I research brain trauma and develop new treatment protocols." His eyes lit up with genuine interest. "Traumatic brain injury?" "Primarily. Though I'm also working on a project involving neuroplasticity and stroke recovery. The brain's ability to rewire itself after damage." He nodded. "I read something about that in the Journal of Neuroscience last month." "The Stanford study?" Amara blinked. "You read the Journal of Neuroscience?" "I read a lot of things. That study was fascinating. The implications for rehabilitation protocols alone could revolutionize how we treat stroke patients." And just like that, they were talking. Really talking. Not the superficial small talk Amara had expected from a billionaire at a wedding reception, but actual conversation about her research, about his investment philosophy, about the ethics of medical technology, and the responsibility that came with wealth and power. An hour disappeared in what felt like minutes. Then, 2 hours. At some point, they'd moved from standing near the bar to sitting at an empty table in the corner, leaning close to hear each other over the music, their bodies angled toward each other like magnets finding their natural alignment. "You're not what I expected," Amara admitted, watching the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled. "What did you expect?" "Someone more Corporate. Cold. The Ice King your reputation suggests? Marcus laughed, and the sound did something to her insides. That's a media creation. They need a narrative, so they gave me one. Emotionless billionaire makes better headlines than guy who works too much and hasn't had time for a relationship. Is that what you are? A guy who works too much? Maybe. He reached across the table, his fingers finding hers again, thumb tracing circles on her palm. Or maybe I just hadn't met the right person to make me want to work less. The words should have been cheesy, should have been an obvious line. But the way he was looking at her, like she'd somehow become the center of his universe in the span of 2 hours, made her believe he meant every word. Dance with me, he said suddenly, standing and extending his hand. Amara let him pull her to the dance floor, let him draw her into his arms as a slow song started, let herself relax against his chest as they moved together. His hand settled on her waist, fingers spreading possessively across the burgundy fabric of her dress. His other hand held hers against his chest, and she could feel his heartbeat, fast, matching the racing of her own. "You're creating a scandal," she murmured, aware of the stares they were attracting. The Ice King of Wall Street dancing with an unknown woman like she was the most precious thing in the world. "Good," Marcus said against her ear, his breath warm on her skin. "I've spent 15 years being careful, being calculated, making sure every move I make is strategic and measured." His arms tightened around her. "I'm tired of being careful." Amara's breath caught as he pulled her closer, eliminating even the pretense of appropriate distance. Their bodies were pressed together now, moving as one, and she could feel every hard plane of him against her softer curves. "I have to leave for Tokyo tomorrow," he continued, his voice low and rough. "A deal that's taken 3 years to put together. If it goes through, it secures my company's future. If it doesn't, I could lose everything I've built." "That sounds important." "It is." He pulled back just enough to look at her, and the intensity in his blue eyes made her dizzy. "But right now, standing here with you, I'm wondering if any of it matters as much as this moment." "Marcus, I know this is crazy," he interrupted. "I know we just met. I know I sound insane, but I need you to know—" He stopped, jaw clenching like he was fighting with himself. "I need you to know that I can't stop thinking about what it would be like to kiss you." Amara's heart slammed against her ribs. Around them the reception continued, but she couldn't hear the music anymore, couldn't see the other dancers. There was only Marcus, only this moment, only the electricity crackling between them. "Then why don't you?" she heard herself ask. His eyes darkened. "Because if I start, I don't think I'll be able to stop. And we're in the middle of a wedding reception with 300 people watching us. So take me somewhere private." The words were out before Amara could stop them, bold and reckless and completely unlike her careful, logical self. Marcus went still, his entire body tensing. "Do you mean that? She hesitated, reason trying to reassert itself. "I don't do this. I don't go home with men I just met. I don't make impulsive decisions about—" "Neither do I," he said quietly. "Never. Not once in my entire life." His hand came up to cup her face, thumb stroking her cheekbone with devastating tenderness. "But you make me want to break every rule I've ever had." Amara looked into his eyes and saw her own desire reflected back at her, mixed with vulnerability, with hope, with the same terrifying certainty that this moment was important. "Your penthouse is in this hotel, isn't it?" she asked softly. "Top floor. Take me there." They made it to the elevator without speaking, the tension between them so thick Amara could barely breathe. Marcus kept his hand on the small of her back, possessive, guiding as they crossed the lobby. The elevator was empty when the doors opened, and the moment they stepped inside, the moment those doors slid shut and they were finally alone, everything changed. Marcus backed her against the wall, his hands framing her face, his eyes searching hers one last time. "Last chance," he said, his voice rough. "Tell me to stop, and I will. Tell me this is a mistake and I'll take you home, no questions asked. Amara reached up and pulled his mouth down to hers. The kiss was everything she'd imagined and nothing she'd prepared for. Desperate, hungry, full of weeks' worth of desire, compressed into hours. His tongue swept into her mouth and she moaned, her hands fisting in his tuxedo jacket, pulling him closer. Marcus groaned against her lips, his body pressing her into the wall, and Amara could feel every hard inch of him. His chest, his thighs, and yes, the unmistakable evidence of his arousal pressing against her stomach. Her entire body caught fire. His hands slid from her face down her neck, over her shoulders, trailing fire everywhere he touched. When he reached her waist, when his fingers dug into the soft fabric of her dress with barely restrained need, Amara gasped and arched into him. God, Amara, he breathed against her mouth. You're killing me. The elevator chimed, signaling their arrival at the penthouse level, and they broke apart, gasping. Marcus looked wrecked, hair dishevelled from her fingers, lips swollen from her kisses, eyes blazing with desire so intense it made her knees weak. Come with me, he said, extending his hand. Amara took it without hesitation. The penthouse was stunning, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan, modern furniture in blacks and greys, expensive art on the walls. But Amara barely noticed any of it. She was too focused on Marcus, on the way he was looking at her like she was a miracle he couldn't quite believe in. Drink? He asked, his voice rough. No. Are you sure? Because once we start... He stopped, jaw clenching. I need you to be sure, Amara. I need you to know what you're doing here. She crossed to where he stood, reaching up to loosen his bow tie with steady hands. I'm a neurologist. I make life and death decisions every day. I know exactly what I'm doing. The tie came free and she dropped it on the floor. I'm choosing you, she continued, unbuttoning his shirt with deliberate slowness. I'm choosing this moment. I'm choosing to be reckless for once in my carefully planned life. Marcus caught her hands, stopping her progress on his buttons. I need you to know something first. What? This isn't just physical for me. His eyes were serious, vulnerable. I know we just met. I know this is insane. But when I saw you tonight, when we started talking, I felt something I've never felt before. He pulled her closer until they were standing chest to chest, until she could feel his heart racing against hers. I don't do casual, he said quietly. I can't. So if this is just tonight for you, if you're going to wake up tomorrow and regret this, tell me now. Because once I have you, once I know what it's like to make you mine, I won't be able to let you go. Amara's breath caught at the raw honesty in his voice, at the promise and the warning wrapped together. I don't do casual either, she admitted. I've had exactly 3 relationships in my entire life, and they all ended because I couldn't give them the time and attention they deserved. I'm married to my work, Marcus. I'm difficult and driven, and I disappear into my research for days at a time. She reached up to cup his face, feeling the slight stubble on his jaw, the warmth of his skin. But standing here with you, she continued softly, I don't want to be careful. I don't want to calculate the odds or analyze the potential outcomes. I just want to feel. Then feel this, Marcus murmured, and kissed her again. This time there was no elevator wall to brace against, no imminent interruption. There was only his mouth on hers, his hands sliding into her hair, pulling out pins until her carefully styled updo tumbled down around her shoulders. Beautiful, he breathed, running his fingers through her natural curls. You're so damn beautiful. He walked her backwards through the penthouse, never breaking the kiss, until her legs hit something soft. The bed. Amara's heart kicked into overdrive as Marcus lowered her onto expensive silk sheets, as he braced himself above her, as his eyes devoured every inch of her. Tell me what you want, he said, his voice rough with restraint. You, she breathed. I want you. What followed was a night of discovery. two people learning each other with careful attention and growing passion. Marcus took his time, showing Amara with gentle touches and whispered words that she was cherished, desired, valued beyond measure. He undressed her slowly, reverently, each piece of clothing removed with care. When she lay before him, vulnerable and wanting, he traced every curve with tender appreciation, making her feel beautiful in a way she'd never experienced before. Their lovemaking was intense yet tender, a connection that went beyond physical pleasure to something deeper, more meaningful. Marcus was patient when she needed him to be, passionate when she craved it, always attentive to her responses, her needs, her comfort. They came together in a union that felt less like casual encounter and more like inevitability, two souls finding each other across impossible odds and choosing to take the leap together. Afterward, they lay tangled in silk sheets, both struggling to catch their breath, both transformed by what had just happened between them. That was, Marcus started. I know. I don't have words. Me neither. He kissed her softly, tenderly, and Amara felt something crack open in her chest, something she'd kept carefully locked away for her entire adult life. She was falling for him. After just one night, after a few hours of conversation, and one incredible connection, she was falling for Marcus Blackwood. And judging by the way he was looking at her, like she'd just become the most important thing in his world, he was falling too. They lay tangled together in the silk sheets as Manhattan glittered beyond the windows, neither quite ready to face the reality of what they'd just done. Marcus traced lazy patterns on Amara's shoulder, his other arm wrapped around her waist, holding her close. "What are you thinking?" he asked quietly. "That I should probably feel more guilty about this than I do," Amara admitted. "I don't usually—" "I know, neither do I." He pressed a kiss to her forehead. "I've had relationships, not many, but a few, and none of them felt like this." "Like what?" "Like I'd been waiting my entire life to meet you." He pulled back enough to look at her. "Like everything that happened before tonight was just preparation for this moment." Amara's heart clenched. "Marcus!" "I'm not asking you for anything," he said quickly. "I know this is fast. I know we live in different worlds. I know I'm leaving for Tokyo in—" He glanced at the clock. 8 hours. "Like what? 8 hours?" "My flight leaves at 9 a.m. His jaw clenched. "This deal I mentioned, it's with a Japanese consortium. 3 years of negotiation. If it goes through, it secures my company's position in the Asian market. If it doesn't—" "It doesn't what?" Marcus was quiet for a moment, his fingers still tracing patterns on her skin. "There are people who want to see me fail," he finally said. "Competitors who resent that I've been successful. They're planning something. A hostile takeover attempt. I have evidence, but it's not enough. This Tokyo deal would give me the financial backing to fight them off." "How long will you be gone?" "At least a week. Maybe 2. He turned to face her fully. "But I want to see you when I get back. I want to take you to dinner, to the opera, to my cabin in the Adirondacks. I want—" He stopped himself. "I want to know if this is real." "It feels real," Amara whispered. "It does." He kissed her again, slow and deep. "Stay tonight. Let me fall asleep with you in my arms. Let me have this before I have to leave." She should say no. Should go home, put distance between them, give them both time to think clearly. Instead, she nodded against his chest. They spent the rest of the night talking, learning each other's stories with the same intensity they'd learned each other's bodies. When exhaustion finally claimed them, they fell asleep, wrapped around each other, neither wanting to let go. When Marcus's alarm went off at 6 a.m., neither wanted to move. "I have to go," he said reluctantly, pressing kisses along Amara's shoulder. "My assistant is probably losing her mind, wondering where I am." "Then go. In a minute." He rolled her onto her back, bracing himself above her. "I need you to know something first." "What?" "This wasn't just a one-night stand for me. Last night—" He stopped, searching for words. "Last night changed everything. You changed everything." Amara's heart clenched. "Marcus, I'm going to Tokyo, and I'm going to close this deal. And when I get back, I'm taking you to dinner at the best restaurant in Manhattan. Then I'm bringing you back here and spending the entire night showing you exactly how much you mean to me. Despite everything, the insanity of the situation, the impossibility of what they were starting, Amara found herself smiling. That's quite a plan. Do you object? Not even a little. He kissed her deeply, thoroughly, making her toes curl and her heart race. Then, with obvious reluctance, he climbed out of bed and started getting dressed. Amara watched from the tangled sheets, admiring the play of muscle beneath his skin, the confident way he moved, the occasional glance he threw her way, like he was making sure she was really there. When he was dressed in fresh clothes, dark jeans and a button-down shirt that made him look less like a billionaire and more like a dangerously attractive man, he sat on the edge of the bed and pulled a card from his wallet. "My private number," he said, pressing it into her hand. "Not my assistant, not my office. Me. Call me any time. You're going to be in meetings. I don't care. Call me anyway." She took the card, running her thumb over the embossed numbers. What if you're wrong? What if this was just... It wasn't. He caught her face in his hands, forcing her to meet his eyes. "I know you're scared. I'm terrified. But this is real, Amara. I feel it. And I think you feel it too." She did. God help her, she did. "Go," she said, her voice thick. "Go close your deal, save your company, and then come back and prove to me that last night wasn't a beautiful dream." Marcus kissed her one more time, slow, sweet, full of promise. Then he was gone, and Amara was alone in his penthouse as morning light began to filter through the windows. She should feel guilty, should feel ashamed of spending the night with a man she barely knew. Instead, she felt alive, more alive than she'd felt in years. She got up, found her dress and shoes, and got dressed slowly. As she was about to leave, she noticed a note on the nightstand. "Thank you for the most incredible night of my life. I'll call you from Tokyo. Don't forget me. M." Amara smiled, tucking the note into her purse along with his card. Forget him? Impossible. Marcus Blackwood had just ruined her for every other man on the planet. And somehow, she didn't mind at all. Amara made it home just as the sun was fully rising over Manhattan, her burgundy dress wrinkled, her hair wild, her body pleasantly sore in places that reminded her of every moment with Marcus. Her apartment felt smaller somehow, emptier. She showered, changed into scrubs for her hospital shift, and tried to focus on the day ahead. But her mind kept drifting back to silk sheets and strong hands and blue eyes that had looked at her like she was the answer to every question he'd ever asked. Her phone buzzed as she was leaving for work. "Landed in Tokyo. Already missing you. Dinner tonight, your time? I'll call. M." Amara's heart did a stupid little flip. She texted back, "I have surgery until 8 p.m. Call me after?" His response was immediate. "I'll be counting the minutes." The day dragged. Every surgery felt longer than it should. Every consultation took twice the normal time. Amara kept checking her phone between patients, feeling like a teenager with her first crush. Dr. Sarah Chen, her colleague and friend, noticed during their lunch break. "Okay, spill," Sarah said, cornering Amara in the break room. "You're glowing, and you keep checking your phone like it holds the secrets of the universe. Who is he?" "I don't know what you're talking about." "Amara Johnson, I've known you for 6 years. You never glow. You're always stressed and caffeinated and running on 4 hours of sleep. Right now you look like you just won the lottery." Sarah gasped. "Oh my God, did you finally get laid?" "Sarah! You did, you totally did!" Sarah grabbed her hands, bouncing excitedly. "Tell me everything. Who is he? Where did you meet? Is he good in bed?" "He must be good in bed because you're practically radiating post-orgasmic bliss." Despite herself, Amara laughed. "You're insane. And you're in love." The word hit Amara like a physical blow. "I'm not. We just met." "How long have you known him?" "Technically, about 12 hours. Sarah's eyes went wide. You slept with someone you met yesterday. Amara Johnson, the woman who makes guys wait 3 months before even considering sex, had a one-night stand. It wasn't a one-night stand, Amara said defensively. He's different. Different how? He's brilliant and funny. And he actually listened when I talked about my research instead of his eyes glazing over. Amara slumped in her chair. And he's in Tokyo for the next 2 weeks on business. What does he do? He runs an investment firm, Sarah whistled. Rich guy. Is he hot? Amara pulled out her phone and did a quick Google search for Marcus Blackwood. The Forbes profile came up immediately. Marcus in a sharp suit, looking every inch the Ice King, blue eyes staring at the camera with intimidating intensity. Holy shit, Sarah breathed. That's Marcus Blackwood. The Marcus Blackwood, worth like $4 billion. He's on the list of most eligible bachelors every year. I didn't know who he was when I met him. How is that possible? I don't follow business news, and he didn't act like a billionaire. He acted like a regular guy who was interested in me. Sarah studied her friend's face. You're really falling for him, aren't you? Is that insane? We barely know each other. Love doesn't follow a timeline, Amara. Sometimes it hits you like lightning. Sarah squeezed her hand. Just be careful, okay? Guys that rich live in a different world. Make sure he's serious before you give him your heart. But as Amara returned to her rounds, as she checked her phone obsessively waiting for Marcus's call, she realized it was already too late for that warning. Her heart was already his. Marcus called at exactly 8:15 p.m. New York time, which meant it was 9:15 a.m. in Tokyo, and he'd probably been up all night in meetings. Hi, he said when she answered, and his voice alone made her body respond, a flush of heat, a flutter in her stomach, a longing so intense it hurt. Hi yourself. How's Tokyo? Expensive, crowded, missing you every second. She heard rustling like he was settling into a chair. Tell me about your day. I want to hear everything. So she did. She told him about the successful surgery on a 50-year-old stroke patient, about the new research data that was showing promising results, about Sarah's reaction when she'd seen his Forbes profile. You looked me up, he said, sounding pleased. Sarah looked you up. I was content not knowing you're worth billions. Does it bother you? The money? No. The fact that you're on the most eligible bachelor list and probably have women throwing themselves at you constantly? Maybe a little. Marcus laughed, and the sound made her smile. I haven't looked at another woman since I saw you across that wedding reception. And I won't. You have my full attention, Dr. Johnson. They talked for 2 hours, about everything and nothing, about his meetings that were going well, about her research that was entering a critical phase, about the fact that they both hated the distance between them. I want to see you, Marcus said, his voice dropping lower. I want to watch your face while we talk. I want to see what you're wearing. What do you want, Marcus? Everything. I want everything with you. Amara's breath caught. That's a lot to want after one night. I know. Does it scare you? Terrifies me. Good. I'd hate to be the only one freaking out. She heard him shift, imagined him running a hand through his hair, the way he did when he was thinking. Amara, I need to tell you something. His tone made her nervous. What? The deal here, it's not going as smoothly as I thought. There are complications. People are pushing back on terms we agreed to months ago. What kind of complications? The kind that make me think someone's working against me. Someone who doesn't want this deal to succeed. Amara sat up straighter. The people planning the hostile takeover? Probably. I can't prove it yet, but my instincts are screaming that something's wrong. He paused. I might need to stay here longer than 2 weeks. Her heart sank. How much longer? I don't know. However long it takes to fix this. Marcus, I know. I know this is terrible timing. I know we just started this thing between us, and now I'm going to be halfway around the world for God knows how long. His frustration was palpable. But I have to see this through. Too many people are depending on me. I understand, Amara said, even though disappointment was crushing her chest. Your company comes first. I get it. No. His voice was fierce. You don't get it. My company is important, yes, but you... He stopped and she heard him take a breath. You're becoming essential, and I hate that I can't be there with you right now. We'll figure it out. Will we? Yes, she said with more confidence than she felt, because what we have is worth the wait. They talked until Marcus's assistant knocked on his door to remind him of his next meeting. When they finally hung up, Amara felt both elated and bereft. One night together and she was already addicted to his voice. This was dangerous, this was wonderful, this was terrifying. 3 days passed with no word from Marcus. The first day, Amara told herself he was just busy with meetings. The second day, she started to worry. By the third day, she was convinced something was wrong. She tried calling his private number. It went straight to voicemail. She texted. No response. She even considered calling his company, but what would she say? Hi, I'm the woman your CEO slept with once. Is he okay? Sarah found her in the hospital cafeteria on day 3, staring at her phone like she could will it to ring. Still nothing, Sarah asked gently. Nothing. It's been 72 hours. What if something happened to him? Have you checked the news? Amara hadn't. She pulled out her phone and searched for Marcus Blackwood. What she found made her blood run cold. Breaking. Blackwood Industries under attack. Anonymous sources leak. Confidential deal information. Tokyo negotiations collapse. Billions in potential revenue lost. Marcus Blackwood missing after heated board meeting. Company in crisis. The articles were from that morning. Hours old. Oh my God, Amara whispered, scrolling through article after article. Each one painted a worse picture than the last. Corporate espionage, leaked documents, the Tokyo deal falling apart, Marcus's company under siege from competitors who'd timed their attack perfectly. And Marcus himself, missing, not unavailable for comment, not declined to respond. Missing. Amara, breathe, Sarah said, gripping her shoulders. I'm sure he's fine. He's probably just dealing with the crisis. But Amara's medical training was screaming at her. The timing was too convenient, the leak too perfect. And Marcus had told her he suspected someone was working against him. What if they'd done more than sabotage a deal? What if they'd hurt him? Her phone rang. Unknown number. Amara answered so fast she nearly dropped it. Hello? Dr. Johnson? A woman's voice. Professional. Urgent. This is Eliza Reed, Mr. Blackwood's executive assistant. Amara's heart stopped. Is he okay? He's been injured. I'm calling from Mount Sinai Hospital in Manhattan. He's asking for you. Can you come immediately? I'm on my way. Amara ran. She ran through the hospital corridors, ignoring colleagues calling her name, ignoring everything except the need to get to Marcus. Mount Sinai was 10 blocks away. She didn't wait for a cab. She just ran. When she burst through the entrance, Eliza was waiting, a sharp-looking Asian woman in her 40s, wearing a designer suit that somehow still looked perfect despite the obvious stress. Dr. Johnson, Eliza said. Thank God. He's been asking for you since he woke up. I didn't know who you were until I went through his call history and found your number. What happened to him? His plane went down over the Pacific. Mechanical failure, they're saying, but... Eliza's face hardened. I've worked for Marcus for 10 years. I don't believe in coincidences. How badly is he hurt? Dislocated shoulder, 3 cracked ribs, multiple contusions. He's lucky to be alive. Eliza led her to the elevators. The plane was going down when one of the pilots managed to get control. They made an emergency landing at a military base. Marcus was unconscious when they pulled him from the wreckage. The elevator ride to the top floor felt like it took hours. The private suite was guarded by men in dark suits who checked Amara's ID 3 times before letting her through. Inside, Marcus lay in a hospital bed that looked ridiculously small for his 6'3" frame. Bandages covered his shoulder. His face was bruised, one eye swollen nearly shut. An IV dripped something into his arm, but when he saw her, when their eyes met, his entire face transformed. "You came," he said, his voice rough and cracking. Amara crossed to the bed, her medical training warring with her emotional reaction. She wanted to throw herself into his arms. She wanted to check his vitals and assess his injuries properly. She wanted to cry and rage at whoever had done this to him. Instead, she took his good hand in both of hers. "Of course I came," she said softly. "What happened?" "Someone tried to kill me." He said it matter-of-factly like he was discussing the weather. The plane's systems failed simultaneously. Engines, hydraulics, communications. The pilots said it was sabotage. "Marcus, I'm sorry." He squeezed her hand. "I'm sorry I couldn't call. I'm sorry I disappeared. I'm sorry I dragged you into this." "You didn't drag me into anything." Amara sat carefully on the edge of the bed. "I chose to be here." "Even knowing that being with me puts you in danger?" "Even then." Marcus studied her face, searching for doubt, for fear, for any sign that she was going to run. He wouldn't find it, because sitting there, looking at this man who'd survived a plane crash and was still more concerned about her safety than his own injuries, Amara realized something that should have terrified her but instead felt like certainty. She was in love with him. Completely, irrevocably, insanely in love with Marcus Blackwood. "What are you thinking?" he asked softly. "That you look terrible." He laughed, then winced. "Don't make me laugh. It hurts." "Then stop being charming." She reached up to brush a strand of hair from his forehead, careful of his bruises. "Tell me what you need." "You. I need you." "You have me." Something fierce blazed in his eyes. Despite the injuries, despite the exhaustion, despite everything, desire flickered to life. "Amara," he said, his voice dropping to that rough timbre that made her stomach flutter. "I spent 3 days thinking I was going to die without seeing you again, without telling you." "Don't," she interrupted. "Don't say it if you're only saying it because you almost died." "I'm saying it because it's true." He tugged her closer with his good arm. "I'm falling in love with you. Maybe I already have fallen. I don't know the exact moment it happened. Maybe when you challenged me at the wedding, maybe when you looked at me across those silk sheets, maybe when you answered Eliza's call without hesitation." His hand came up to cup her face. "But I'm done pretending this is just attraction. I'm done being careful. Life's too short and too uncertain. I love you, Amara Johnson." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "You're insane. We've known each other less than a week." "I know. This is the fastest I've ever moved with anyone." "I know. I have no idea how to make this work with our schedules and your company crisis and the fact that someone literally just tried to kill you." "I know," he said again, pulling her down until their foreheads touched. "But do you love me back?" Amara closed her eyes, breathing him in. Hospital antiseptic and expensive cologne and something underneath that was purely Marcus. "Yes," she whispered. "God help me, yes. I love you." He kissed her then, gentle because of his injuries but no less devastating. His good arm wrapped around her waist, holding her close, and Amara tasted relief and promise and forever on his lips. When they broke apart, both slightly breathless, Marcus rested his forehead against hers. "Stay with me tonight," he said. "I know it's asking too much, but I need—" "Yes." "I didn't finish." "I don't care. The answer is yes." She pulled back to look at him. "But I'm sleeping in that chair because you're injured and you need to rest properly." "Amara, non-negotiable, Mr. Blackwood. I'm a doctor. I know what's best for my patients." "Is that what I am? Your patient? Right now?" "Yes." She kissed him softly. "Later, when you're healed, you can go back to being the man who ruins me for all other men." Marcus smiled, really smiled, and despite everything, the injuries, the crisis, the danger, he looked happy. I can live with that. Are you enjoying this story? Like and subscribe to the channel to keep getting juicy contents like this. Amara stayed with Marcus through the night, dozing in the uncomfortable chair beside his bed, waking every time he shifted or made a sound. Around 3 a.m., when she was checking his vitals out of habit, he caught her hand. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "I should be asking you that. You're the one who survived a plane crash." "My mind won't shut off." He shifted carefully, wincing. "I keep thinking about the timing, the leaked documents, the plane sabotage. Someone orchestrated all of this." "Do you know who?" "I have suspicions. Competitors who'd benefit from my company failing. Board members who've always resented that I inherited control instead of them." His jaw clenched. "But I can't prove anything." "What about the federal investigators? If there was sabotage..." "They're investigating. But these things take time. And I don't have time." "The board is meeting next week to discuss a vote of no confidence. If they succeed, I lose control of my father's company." Amara heard the pain beneath his words. This wasn't just about business for him. It was about legacy, about protecting what his father had built. "What can I do?" she asked. "You're already doing it. Being here. Keeping me sane." He pulled her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles. "I don't know what I did to deserve you, but I'm not letting go." "Good. Because I'm not going anywhere." They were quiet for a moment, just holding hands in the dim hospital room. Then Marcus said, almost casually, "Will you come with me to a charity gala next weekend?" Amara blinked. "You almost died 3 days ago, and you're thinking about charity galas." "The company sponsors it every year. My presence proves I'm still in control, still strong." His eyes met hers. "And I want you there. I want everyone to see that I'm not the Ice King anymore. That I have someone who matters more than quarterly earnings." "Marcus, that's going to create a media storm." "I know. That's why I'm asking, not telling. This will put you in the spotlight. People will dig into your past, your work, your life. They'll say terrible things. Question why you're with me. Assume you're a gold digger." "Sounds delightful." "It will be awful," he admitted. "But it will also make a statement. That I'm serious about you. That this isn't casual. That anyone who wants to come after me has to go through both of us." Amara considered his words. A week ago, the idea would have terrified her. But looking at this man, bruised and broken but still thinking 3 moves ahead, still protecting what mattered, she realized she'd already made her choice. "Okay," she said. "I'll go to your gala." Marcus's face lit up with something between relief and joy. "Really? Really? But I'm picking my own dress. No offense, but I don't need another billionaire makeover moment." He laughed, then groaned as his ribs protested. "Deal. Though for the record, you'd look stunning in a paper bag." Smooth talker. Only with you. 1 week later, Amara stood in front of her mirror, adjusting the emerald green gown she'd chosen. Elegant, sophisticated, but unmistakably her own style. Marcus had sent a car, of course, and jewellery that probably cost more than her medical school tuition. And a note that made her smile. "Can't wait to show you off. Prepare to be stared at. M." The Plaza Ballroom was exactly as opulent as she'd expected. Crystal chandeliers, expensive art, wealthy people in designer clothes pretending to care about the cause while really caring about being seen. Marcus was waiting at the entrance, and despite everything, the stress of the past week, the board meetings, the investigation, he looked devastating in his tuxedo. When he saw her, his entire face transformed. "You're stunning," he said, pulling her close and kissing her in full view of the arriving guests. Cameras flashed immediately. "There go your attempts at privacy," Amara murmured against his lips. "Don't care. Let them look." He tucked her hand into the crook of his arm. "Ready to run the gauntlet? With you? Always." The evening was exactly as Marcus had predicted. Endless introductions, curious stares, whispered conversations that stopped when they approached. Amara smiled through it all, answered questions about her work with genuine enthusiasm, and ignored the occasional catty comment from women who clearly thought she didn't belong. Marcus never left her side. His hand stayed possessively on her waist, his attention firmly on her, even when important investors tried to pull him into business discussions. Around 10 p.m., Amara excused herself to get some air on the terrace. That's when she overheard the conversation that would change everything. Two men in expensive suits stood in the shadows, voices low but not low enough. "Blackwood's distracted by that doctor he's dating," the first man said with obvious satisfaction. "Perfect timing for us to move in." "The board meeting next week?" the second asked. "Exactly. Once we reveal what we found about his father's dealings, he's finished. Jonathan Blackwood wasn't the saint everyone thinks. We have proof he was laundering money through offshore accounts for years." Amara's blood ran cold. "The evidence is solid," the first man pressed. "Ironclad. Dates, transactions, everything. When the board sees it, they'll have no choice but to remove Marcus. The company will be ours." They laughed, cruel, satisfied sounds, and moved away. Amara stood frozen, heart racing. Marcus's father. Laundering money. Evidence that could destroy everything. Was it real? Or was it fabricated like the Tokyo deal's sabotage? She had to tell Marcus. But how? And would he believe her? More importantly, would he believe in his father? She found Marcus in conversation with potential investors and pulled him aside with urgent eyes. "We need to talk. Now." He read the seriousness in her face and excused himself immediately, following her to an empty conference room. "What happened?" he asked, closing the door. Amara told him everything: the overheard conversation, the accusations against his father, the board meeting next week. Marcus's face went pale as she spoke, then hardened into something cold and dangerous. "My father laundering money," he said flatly. "That's impossible." "I'm just telling you what I heard. My father was the most ethical man I knew. He built his entire career on transparency and integrity. He'd never—" Marcus stopped, running a hand through his hair. "This is the play. They couldn't destroy me directly, so they're going after his legacy. What if they have real evidence, fabricated but convincing? Then I need to find it first." His eyes met hers, fierce and determined. "My father kept archives of everything. Every deal, every transaction, every piece of correspondence. If there's anything that could be twisted to look like money laundering, it would be there." "Where are these archives?" "His estate in the Hamptons. I haven't been there since he died." His jaw clenched. "I couldn't face it, but now—" "We go tonight," Amara said decisively. "Right now, before they can make their move." Marcus stared at her. "You'd do that? Leave the gala, drive 2 hours to dig through my father's files?" "Marcus, I'm in this with you. All of it. The good, the bad, the messy." She took his hands. "Your enemies are trying to destroy you. I'm not letting that happen." Something fierce and tender blazed in his eyes. He pulled her close, kissing her hard and fast. "I love you," he said against her lips. "God, I love you so much." "Save it for later. Right now we have work to do." The Blackwood estate in the Hamptons was a sprawling modern masterpiece overlooking the ocean, but covered in darkness, with dust sheets over furniture and the air heavy with disuse. It felt more like a mausoleum. Marcus was tense as he led Amara through the house, his shoulders tight, his movements mechanical. "I haven't been here since the funeral," he said quietly. "Couldn't face it. Everything here reminds me of him." Amara squeezed his hand. "We don't have to do this alone, we're in this together." His father's study was exactly as Jonathan Blackwood had left it. Papers still on the desk, books still on the shelves, a half-finished game of chess still set up on the side table waiting for an opponent who would never return. "He loved chess," Marcus said, staring at the board. "Said it taught you to think 3 moves ahead, to anticipate your opponent's strategy. Smart man." "The smartest." Marcus's voice cracked slightly. "And now someone's trying to paint him as a criminal." They worked through the night, sorting through files and documents, piecing together deals and transactions that painted a picture of a brilliant, ethical businessman. Around 3 a.m., Amara found something. a locked drawer in the bottom of the desk. She showed Marcus, and he fetched a key from a painting on the wall, a hiding spot he remembered from childhood. Inside the drawer was a folder marked "Confidential for Marcus only." Marcus opened it with shaking hands. What they found inside changed everything. Meeting notes, wire transfers. Names Amara didn't recognize, but Marcus clearly did, his face cycling through shock, fury, and something like vindication. "It's not what they think," he said, spreading documents across the desk. "Look at the dates, look at the notation codes." Amara leaned in, following his finger as he traced patterns through the paperwork. "My father wasn't laundering money," Marcus continued, his voice growing stronger. "He was gathering evidence. He was working with federal investigators to expose these people, the same ones trying to take me down now." More documents emerged. Correspondences with the FBI, testimony he'd prepared, detailed records of illegal activities by the men who now sat on Blackwood Industries' board. "He knew," Marcus whispered. "He knew they were corrupt. He spent years building a case against them." "Marcus, look at this." Amara held up a final document, a letter dated 1 week before Jonathan Blackwood's death. "If you're reading this, Marcus, something has happened to me. I've made powerful enemies. Men who will stop at nothing to protect their secrets. The evidence in this file needs to reach the FBI immediately. Don't trust anyone on the board. Many of them are compromised. Finish what I started. Bring them down. And protect yourself. They'll come after you next. Dad." Marcus read the letter 3 times, his hands trembling, tears streaming down. "They killed him," he said, his voice breaking. "His car accident wasn't an accident. They murdered my father." Amara wrapped her arms around him, holding him as 15 years of grief and misunderstanding crashed over him. "I thought—" He could barely speak. "I spent 15 years thinking he died randomly, that it was just bad luck. But they killed him because he was going to expose them." "And now they're trying to kill you," Amara said softly. "The plane crash, the sabotage, all of it." Marcus lifted his head and his eyes had gone cold, the Ice King returning, but now with purpose, with righteousness. "They made a mistake," he said. "They should have succeeded in killing me, because now I have everything I need to destroy them." He kissed Amara hard, desperately. "Thank you for being here, for believing in me, for helping me find this." "Always," she promised. "Now let's finish what your father started." The emergency board meeting was called for Monday morning. Marcus had 24 hours to prepare. He spent them with Amara at his side, organizing evidence, calling the FBI to reopen the investigation into his father's death, and building an ironclad case against the men who'd been operating in shadows for over 15 years. When Monday arrived, when Marcus walked into that boardroom with Amara beside him and federal agents waiting in the wings, he was ready. The board members who'd planned to destroy him looked confident at first, smug, ready to present their evidence of Jonathan Blackwood's supposed crimes. Then Marcus began to speak. "Gentlemen," he said, his voice cutting through their murmurs, "I believe you wanted to discuss my father's legacy, so let's discuss it, all of it." What followed was systematic destruction. Marcus presented his father's evidence piece by piece, naming names, showing wire transfers, revealing the corruption that had infected Blackwood Industries from within. He showed proof of money laundering, but not by Jonathan Blackwood, by the board members themselves. He showed proof of insider trading, of market manipulation, of bribes paid to government officials. And finally, he showed proof that they'd murdered his father to silence him. "Jonathan Blackwood died 15 years ago," Marcus said, his voice steady despite the emotion, "because he refused to let corruption win, because he believed in doing the right thing, even when it cost him everything." He looked at each board member who'd plotted against him. "You thought killing him would end it. You thought a 23-year-old kid wouldn't be able to hold on to the company. You were wrong." Federal agents entered the room on cue. 3 board members were arrested immediately, including the 2 men Amara had overheard at the gala. The others resigned on the spot, knowing they'd be next. When it was over, when the room had cleared and it was just Marcus and Amara standing in the wreckage of conspiracy and corruption, he finally let himself break. She held him while he cried, for his father, for the 15 years of not knowing the truth, for the burden he'd carried alone for so long. "It's over," she whispered. "You did it. You finished what he started." "We did it," Marcus corrected, pulling back to look at her. "I couldn't have done this without you, Amara. You saved me in every way a person can be saved." "You saved yourself. I just helped you see clearly." He kissed her then, soft, tender, full of gratitude and love and promise. 6 months later, the wedding venue was the same one where they'd met, Jason's wedding, which felt like a lifetime ago. Marcus had rented it for the evening, recreating that first night down to the smallest detail. The same music, the same lighting, even the same champagne. Amara walked in wearing the same burgundy dress, her natural hair in the same elegant updo, and found Marcus waiting in the center of the empty ballroom wearing the same tuxedo. "You're insane," she said, but she was smiling. "I've been thinking about that first night," Marcus said, extending his hand just like he had 6 months ago. "How everything in my life changed because I looked up at exactly the right moment and saw you." "Some people call that fate," Amara replied, taking his hand and letting him pull her close. "I call it the best gamble I ever took." His hand settled on her waist, fingers spreading in that possessive way that still made her stomach flutter. "My life was all calculated risks until you. You were the beautiful variable I never accounted for." As they swayed to music playing softly in the background, Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Amara's breath caught. "I've spent 6 months falling more in love with you every single day," he said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "6 months watching you save lives and challenge my assumptions and make me want to be better than I ever thought I could be." He opened the box, revealing a ring that caught the light. An emerald surrounded by diamonds, unique and perfect. "Marry me," he said simply, "not because it's logical or makes sense by any normal standard. Marry me because when I look at you, I see my entire future. Marry me because you're the only risk I want to take for the rest of my life." Tears streamed down Amara's face, but she was laughing too. "You're supposed to get down on one knee. I got shot at twice in the last 6 months because of corporate espionage. I think I've earned the right to propose standing up." She laughed harder, then cupped his face in her hands. "Yes. Yes, I'll marry you, Marcus Blackwood. I'll marry you and drive you crazy with my work schedule and argue with you about ethical investing and love you until the day I die." He slid the ring onto her finger and kissed her like the world was ending and beginning all at once. When they broke apart, both breathless and grinning, Marcus pulled her back into dance position. "So," he said, "should we recreate the rest of that first night too?" Amara raised an eyebrow. "The part where I went to your penthouse and we didn't sleep for 12 hours? That's the part I was referring to, yes." "Marcus Blackwood, are you propositioning your fiancé?" "Absolutely. Is it working?" She pulled his mouth down to hers, kissing him until they were both dizzy with want and promise, and the certainty of forever. "Take me upstairs," she whispered against his lips. "Let's make new memories in those silk sheets." They made it to the penthouse, the same one where it continues 6:38 a.m. had all started, where two strangers had become lovers and then partners and now, finally, forever. And as Marcus laid Amara down on those silk sheets once again, as they loved each other with the passion and tenderness of people who'd fought for their happiness, they both knew one thing with absolute certainty. Some gambles were worth everything. Some risks changed your life. And some people, rare, precious, perfect people, were worth breaking every rule you'd ever made. Marcus Blackwood had been the Ice King for 15 years. But Amara Johnson had melted him completely, and in that melting, They'd both found something neither knew they were searching for. Home. Not a place, but a person. Not perfection, but partnership. Not the fairy tale, but something better, something real. As they lay tangled together afterward, Manhattan glittering beyond the windows, Marcus whispered against her hair, "Thank you for taking a chance on me that night." "Thank you for being worth the risk," Amara whispered back. And somewhere in the city below, another wedding was happening, another couple was meeting across a crowded room, another story was beginning. Because love doesn't follow rules or timelines or logical progression. It arrives like lightning, unexpected, powerful, life-changing. And if you're brave enough to embrace it, if you're willing to take the risk, if you're strong enough to fight for it, it can transform everything. Marcus and Amara had gambled on each other after just one night, and they'd won everything that mattered. If this story moved you, remember, the greatest loves often begin in the most unexpected moments. Sometimes all it takes is one glance, one conversation like, comment and subscribe to keep getting juicy contents like this, turn on your notification bell so you don't miss any updates.